Margaret Kuhlman of Soul Astrology. This new moon in Aquarius, the chart is bitty, not all of it connecting in. The new moon itself makes no direct aspects to any of the planets. So there is perhaps a sense that we've been feeling growing, of being poised on the edge of something, poised and yet not connected with what it is that's going on, what it is that's about to happen. The sense is that it's an Aquarian event, an event that affects us all and the way society runs. We've been feeling this coming for some years, and we feel very much on the brink of it right now. Within 6 hours after the new moon, Mars will be in Aries. But at the new moon moment, and perhaps casting its spell over the whole month, it is still in Pisces, together with Venus, Chiron and Neptune, as well as the South Node. There's a huge amount of energy in Pisces, which is where we really don't know anything much at all, and the feeling that if we do hold on to something, it's going to be washed away in the next wave anyway. Venus is right beside Chiron, having just been across it. So in the week running up to this new moon, it will have been focused on perhaps the wounds of humanity as a whole, and perhaps on a more personal level, our own wounded relationships, even our relationship with ourselves, our own vulnerabilities, especially where other people are concerned, how we show up, how we actually relate to them, how our feelings move as oil between us, smoothing the manner of our relating, or not. And at the new moon itself, Venus is exactly square to Saturn in Sagittarius, showing perhaps a measure of nervousness and uncertainty, anxiety as to what the world will think, as to whether we're doing the right thing, and a sense perhaps that authority, which says the right thing must be done, is not necessarily looking at us, that the rules that we find ourselves obeying are not necessarily feeling good, and that we're just about ready to challenge that. With the quincunx across to Jupiter, and Jupiter going well with Saturn, with that sextile, perhaps we stand up more for someone else's rights than our own, but find that our own rights are served at the same time. And the moment of action, perhaps that's when the Mars goes into Aries, so almost immediately. And Mars will be there until the 10th of March, so February looks like a month of action. If the action stems from this square to Saturn, there could be conflict, quite open, is sudden and spontaneous conflict, in general and also in our own personal lives. Watch out for being impatient for results. Watch out for being too sure what the results should be. The beauty of Mars in Aries, its own sign, is the courage to stand alone if need be, not necessarily about action itself, but a stance. And of course, courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. Gradually Mars approaches Uranus. Uranus is in Aries anyway, and trining the Saturn, opposing Jupiter. So part of the directive is to stand for yourself, be in your own corner, not to fight, but to maintain yourself in the face of cold wind or opposition. It's the knowledge that everyone is different in this world of separateness, that we are all unique, and it's our uniqueness which is our offering. But without an aspect to the new moon in Aquarius, it may not be quite time for that perfect offering to be made, but rather a time for gathering together what we are and what we have, by way of talent, skill, gift. Mercury goes over Pluto very shortly after the new moon. Another thing we will have felt coming over this last week at least. In Capricorn, it's very much about understanding that now is the time to make those big practical changes. The understanding does not necessarily mean making them, but coming to an understanding and making a decision about that is quite an act in itself. The double square to Uranus and Jupiter is a caution not to decide to go too far out on a limb, not to cut off too far from other people, not to carve out too much space for yourself that you may then regret. It is about transformation, but transformation is not something we do. Transformation happens when we recognize that which doesn't work anymore and make a decision to not do it, to throw away the thing which is out of date, to let go of the feelings we have about somebody long past. It's feeling so uncomfortable about the bit that no longer fits that we actually shift it, or shift ourselves, and then the transformation can happen. We set the scene. We do the best we can with what we've got. But we have to recognize the truth for any of this to happen. The full moon chart is a great contrast to the new moon. The sun and moon are intricately involved in the pattern, as though now is the time, as though this is the moment when the changes can come about. Venus has joined Mars in Aries, and Mercury is connecting with them both most beautifully. So communication about the need for space, the need to be oneself, to be independent, the need to stand clear, in opposition sometimes to others, if that's what it takes, to be true to oneself. Sometimes a lot of speed in doing things, perhaps too much, trying to go too fast, the impatient thing again. But then Mercury, the understanding of the situation, holding us in check, like revving up the engine, ready to do that which is a social act, something that we have to offer the group, and being able to see ourselves in a social context and communicate that to people. So the sun and moon are part of a beautiful rectangle of energies with Jupiter and Uranus. So statements of individuality which fit with the whole, which work together. It's like a lot of people having different skills that when you blend them make a perfect society. It's important for us to be different. And the pointing finger of the quincunx, the double quincunx, to Chiron, pointing out, yes, there is a wound, we can be full of self-pity, we can complain about what happened before, or we can turn it around and point to the healer. And the healer aspect, that which knows the truth, sensitive, empathic to others' struggles, is brought in to the moon and Jupiter to be used by them. The upbeat moon in Leo, always finding a positive view, and Jupiter in Libra, generous and giving in relationship. The moon is also part of that big triangle with Saturn, and the sun joins in, 4 sides of a hexagon, strong, supportive. It looks as though from the full moon onwards there'll be a lot of good stuff going on. So let's not worry too much about the fears and trembling at the moment. A lot is going to happen in the first 2 weeks that will make what looks fearful now into something that's perfectly doable, and maybe even a very good idea. In which case, there really is no point in fearing, in worrying. So every time you feel it rise, just remember that the Spirit is more powerful than any person on earth, and that when we're open to it, our guidance is always present. Thank you. Breathe. All your life you have wondered, and now is the moment of revelation. This moment is always available to you, pristine and perfect, bright and clear. Breathe into your body, into your heart. Let the light dawn for all humanity in your inner vision, gentle at first, tremulous as a new shoot from the earth, but gaining strength with every breath until blossoming in triumphant silence. Colours untold, joy and love abounding. All is well in your heart, and therefore in the world.